What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Cam Smith Territory. My name is Chandler Rome, along with Tyler Stafford and Josh Reddick. And I think the whole city of Houston is just going to name everything after Cam Smith now because we learned today, about a couple hours ago, that Cam Smith will make the Astros opening day roster in a move that it's not unprecedented, but it is certainly there are few parallels to draw between this and anything else that's happened in baseball. Cam Smith is the third quickest position player to ever make a team's opening day roster, trailing only Pete Incaviglia, former Sugarland Skeeters manager. He played 0 games before he made the Texas Rangers opening day roster. And then John Olerud played 6 games before making the Blue Jays opening day roster in 1990. Cam Smith has played 32 games as a professional. His 33rd will be in Dyken Park against the New York Mets, opposite Juan Soto, who will be in right field for the Mets. He's going to make $700 million. Cam Smith will make $700,000. Cam Smith will make $700,000. I will get into why I was so skeptical about this from the beginning, but I'll take my L. Cam Smith's a big leaguer. Chandler Rome's an idiot. Josh, Tyler, I can't. At this point, I don't think any of us are surprised, but just to have it official and to have it happen is a pretty incredible thing.
Idiot, Tyler, you want to take this one? I know you had something ready to go.
Well. All this talk, Chandler. No, I did don my finest 713 Astros giveaway chain. If you want to see that on YouTube, I'm rocking some sick bling. Yes, I am ready. Cam Smith is here. I can't believe it either. It's insane. I mean, obviously, I'm messing with Chandler, but look, this is what you get for jumping on a hype train 7 days earlier than everyone else. I'm assuming that they've replaced the train at Dyken Park with a Cam Smith hype train. I just want his giant face where the oranges used to be.
Yes.
And so I am ready. I can't believe it. Altuve in left, Cam Smith in right, just like we all said all throughout the offseason. What a day. Let's get to opening day as soon as possible.
I think we're all ready. I think we're ready to see what this kid can do. Like you said, I think we're all very surprised by the actual move. You know, obviously, I think we all knew that it could possibly happen at a very high rate. But I think just actually having that decision come along was probably a little bit of a shock for everybody. I know that we're all kind of reeling, and Tyler and I know where we stood on this Cam Smith train. Now it's time for Chandler to hop on that bandwagon and just, hang out in the caboose. And then when he's ready to realize his mistake, he can come up to the front and have a drink with us at the bar cart. So I do want to add one thing that, I love what Joe Espada and the Astros did for him.
That was cool.
Make it known that he was going to the big leagues. Like, super cool moment for a kid. Not to just get that call, but like just to have your parents there and be there to have them surprise you with that news. Like, what a great feeling for a parent to know before your son does, because I mean, you see all these great ways that guys get told about, the opening days. We saw Paul Skeens do it with the opening day start, which was really not a surprise. Fromber, just anytime you can get kind of news like that, getting called up from AAA or something like that, has to be a fantastic feeling. And, I'm going to speak from personal experience. I was one of the few guys that when I debuted in 2009, I had nobody there. My parents didn't get flown in. I didn't have anybody there. I literally had to go back to my hotel room and take it all in myself. So I know what a great special moment he's having, to be able to play right now and get those emotions through. But what's going to be running through his mind when he gets done with that game today and goes back to his hotel room and gets to hang out with his family? I can't imagine just the excitement that he's going to have.
Yeah, was he even planning on living here? Where's he going to be sleeping for the first week of the season?
Well, there's ways around that. There's you get a certain amount of hotel days for free from the team hotel at the team, and then with as knowledgeable as the guys are, they can pretty much give him a good place to rent. The Astros can give him a lot of information about that, but there's ways around it. And who knows? He may, he's a young kid. He may get to shack up with another guy on the team as well. I know that guys do that as well. You get 2 or 3 guys and get a nice place and split the rent. So
there you go.
there's options, plenty of options. And we got a lot of great areas in the area of Houston.
Forrest Whitley, Spencer Arrighetti, and Hunter Brown all shared a house in spring training this year. They shacked up, split the rent. Sounded like it was a good time. A lot of steaks being consumed, a lot of video games played.
Absolutely.
Maybe Cam Smith can get on that train. And Josh, I think you brought up a good point. You know, it's kind of gets tired, right? You see the hidden camera in the manager's office and and it's still cool when that happens. But the thought that Joe Espada and Dana Brown and whoever else was involved here to get Cam Smith's mom, his grandmother was here, his stepdad, his girlfriend, they flew everyone out here. And we got to speak to them shortly after it all went down. This happened very quickly. Sounds like the Astros formally decided last night that Cam Smith, Monday night that is, that Cam Smith was going to be on the roster. They called his mom and said, "You're getting on a plane tomorrow to Houston. Don't tell anyone. Don't tell Cam." And she said, Cam actually, this was cute. I can't think of a better word for it. It was cute. He said, "You know, I text my mom every morning. We stay in touch a lot. And today was the one morning. Today was the one morning he did not text his mom."
Oh, wow.
So it was kind of like, well, I wonder if he'd have texted her, would he have figured it out? And she was firm, said, "No, I would not have spoiled the surprise. I had my location turned off on my phone. He could not see where I was, and this was not going to be a spoiled surprise." And I think another thing too, the fact that they got this out of the way today, and he's got the off day on Wednesday. He can spend time with his family tonight. He can take Wednesday to kind of soak everything in. And then, look, Thursday's not going to be any less. I mean, he's making his major league debut against the New York Mets on opening day. That's going to be a huge whirlwind for him, but he'll at least be able to breathe a little bit. And he has the buffer zone. He has the day. Josh, you're shaking your head. Probably not, but at least he's got 36 hours to decompress a little bit.
Right. If he even gets an ounce of sleep tonight, he'll have all day to recover. Like you said, I think this is huge to get that day. Like you said, gets to hang out with the family, gets to kind of go out and explore the city of Houston a little bit if he wants to, go grab some nice food all day, just kind of get that way to kind of decompress and adjust to it. Because like we all know, opening days, it's like a national holiday when you're on a baseball team. So the ceremonies and the pregame stuff that's going to take place for him, the fanfare is going to be a lot for him to handle. So it's going to be a lot of stuff for him to take in on that day. So it'll be good for him to kind of relax and kind of get a feel for it and just kind of sit back and realize wow, I'm doing it. I'm here. So, this is an opportunity. I got to step up. But yeah, what a great way for him to get through it, to have an off day.
I wish my boss would call my mom whenever I do a good job at work. If I get a promotion, I want my mom to hop on the Zoom call with me and let me know. More people should do that.
Absolutely. In any job.
Right? Yeah. Come on. It's fun.
Hey, Mr. Stafford, Tyler got Employee of the Month this month. We just want to let you know that he got a $25 gift card to Papacitos.
Ooh, Papacitos.
What am I going to do with $25 at Papacitos?
You get an appetizer. You get an appetizer and a freaking kid's water.
That'll get you half a pitcher of Margs at Papacitos.
Yeah. I need a half pitcher, please. Y'all got that by the pint?
We will talk about Cam Smith's, what to expect from him, the rest of this roster composition, and maybe is this going to become the new normal of guys getting fast-tracked to the big leagues? Because we saw another guy today named Ryan Johnson. He's a pitcher for the Angels. He has not pitched in a minor league game. He made the Angels opening day roster. Yep. So there's a lot to talk about.
It's the Angels. It's the Angels, though, Chandler.
It is the Angels. And the Angels are, I will say, the Angels are kings of this. Zach Neto, Nolan Shonwell, Logan O'Hoppe, guys that barely played in the minor leagues are now in the big leagues with the Angels. They're not playing for anything. The Astros and Cam Smith will be playing for things. And we will talk about what to expect from Cam Smith, maybe what to expect to see from him in right field, and how the rest of this roster shakes out after a message from our friends at Foul Territory.
Your hair is so much more than what you see when you look in the mirror. With Nutrafol's science-backed whole-body approach, nourish growth from within and achieve your best hair yet.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people. See thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
Physician formulated with 100% drug-free ingredients, Nutrafol supports healthy hair growth from within by targeting key root causes of thinning like stress, hormones, and aging through whole body health.
Start your hair growth journey with Nutrafol for a limited time. Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code FOUL. Find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and stylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code FOUL. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code FOUL.
All right. So I think it's important to maybe set out like how we got here and why maybe I was so skeptical when spring training started. I was skeptical when spring training started because the Astros were skeptical, and skeptical is probably the wrong word. Cam Smith exceeded every imaginable expectation that this team had for him. And usually when you say a guy has exceeded expectations, the expectations were low. That's usually like a pat on the head or like, hey, you did nice work. Good job. You did better than we thought. They had huge expectations for this guy before spring training even started. And he somehow still exceeded them. The fact that they did not play him in right field until 2 weeks were left in camp shows you that they didn't think this was going to be a possibility. Mm-hmm. Josh, you have been in enough big league camps with enough top prospects, and they usually get sent, like very, very few of them last till the last week of big league camp. They usually come up, get 2 or 3 weeks around the guys, play in a week or so of games, and they get sent to the minor league side. And I mean, I don't want this to disparage Bryce Matthews, but I mean, Bryce Matthews got sent out basically the first week of March, and he's considered their second best position player prospect. The longer Cam Smith stuck around, the more conversations that people had with him in the clubhouse, on the field, how he went about his business. Because look, we know we saw what he did on the field. We saw the home runs. We saw the swing decisions. We saw the athleticism. I am telling you, this is not opinion. This is I know this. How Cam Smith acted in that clubhouse, his demeanor, his makeup, everything about that was the driving force in why the Astros carried him. Because at the end of the day, there were veterans in that clubhouse basically clamoring for him to come to be on the team because they liked him that much. They saw the potential. They saw the power. They saw everything we have talked about with him on the field. But being around him, his locker in the spring training clubhouse was right next to Yordan Alvarez, right next to Mauricio Dubon, right next to Jose Altuve. Jeremy Pena was around the corner. He was around all the guys that matter. And he gave off such a good impression, gave off, I think Dana Brown put it best today. He has the combination of humility and confidence that, he's humble enough to know to not show anybody up. He's humble enough to know his place, but he's confident enough to say, like, I belong here. I'm just as strong and big and talented as these guys. And for a 22-year-old kid, he displayed that far beyond his years. A lot of people struggled to comprehend the fact that he was 22 years old. And Josh, maybe you can speak to this as someone that was in a clubhouse for 180 days a year and you're around these guys a lot. How important is makeup and how important is just being a good dude in that clubhouse? Maybe a little bit even more than what you do on the field.
Oh gosh, yeah, it speaks volumes when you look at it because I've been on some teams where the team chemistry wasn't all there, and when you walk into that Astros clubhouse, from my experience, you walk in there ready to go, ready to win, and just all about the team, and that's what it seems like he's doing. He's getting in there, and he's being a team guy. He's kind of uniting himself with not only infielders but getting in there with outfielders, and that's what makes that Astros organization so great. It's how tight knit they've always been from one side of the clubhouse to the next. We've the way that we've lined up the clubhouse was you had your outfielders in one corner, pitchers on one side, and your infielders over here and your starters over here. So it was always kind of mixed up no matter where you are in a clubhouse. But I've never been in a clubhouse like that where guys are just chirping all the way across the clubhouse at each other, talking trash to each other, and then you get down to the dugout and man, everybody's just ready to high five you and give you a big old hug for doing such a great job. And it seems like that's something that he's jumped on. The names you've listed, guys that have been there long enough that know what it takes to be that kind of guy, what it takes to succeed. So throwing him into that fire, so to speak, of learning was probably the best thing you could have done for this kid, as opposed to sticking him in the corner of the spring training clubhouse with double A guys to where he kind of just be stuck in a corner and kind of keeping to himself. So for him to have to actually be engaged and involved with those guys, they end up walking to the cage with him. He ends up going to have breakfast or lunch with him. It becomes more of just not being on the field and not just being in the locker room, but we're going to go do everything together and we're going to become brothers in this life. And that just seems like what he's really attached to, because you don't really see veterans speaking up for a guy who's on the bubble of making that team, much less being a 22-year-old kid with intentions of being on there. So it just goes to show you how great those guys love him, how much they want to win because they feel like he gives them the best chance to win. So obviously they're going to have his back in that regard. But just to be a mature 22-year-old in life outside of sports is pretty special. But when you put that maturity into a big league clubhouse to a kid who's going to make his debut in 2 days, it makes it that much even more special.
Yeah, and the Astros lost a lot of vocal leadership with Bregman leaving, and obviously they've just gotten older too. And so I think part of it is just having another young guy come in with that confidence and just give some juice to the locker room. So many of the core of the Astros have been there so long that we've seen how much fun Altuve's having doing something new. Cam Smith almost feels like the roster equivalent of moving Altuve to left field, where it's like, I don't know if this is going to work, but we're all having fun doing it. And what is baseball if not, let's try it and see what happens. And, the good guys are going to rise to the top. And Josh, I would love your thoughts on this. To me, it almost seems like less pressure because of how insane it is that he's made the team. Because it's not like he spent a whole off season or even a whole year the year before going fixated on one spot on the team. I mean, they literally just taught him a new position 2 weeks ago and we're like, let's see what happens. And to the point where it's like, look, man, we have expectations, but you're so far above them right now. Whatever you do is fine. Like we're not going to think less of you if you make some goofy error in right field, which is going to happen. And he's going to get embarrassed because, he's going to have to face real, pitching at some point. Maybe not in the Mets series, as we'll talk about in our
Holmes
preview.
is their starter, so their opening day starter. That'll be a tall task.
Yeah. But he's going to not be able to do this forever, but the team has clearly seen enough to say, you know what, there's no reason to hold this guy back other than this doesn't happen often. And sometimes when somebody can just make that much of an impact, look, you roll the dice, because again, look, if it doesn't work out in the first month of the season, nothing is lost. No one is going to be upset. His confidence shouldn't be shot. I would assume that he can handle that. And man, it really is crazy. And Chandler, you mentioned this too. I have that list pulled up of the other hitters who have made it, as quickly. Josh, did you see that?
Other than what Chandler told me, I have not seen it.
So you had that, then you had Cam Smith, and then a bunch of guys from the last couple of years. You got Wyatt Langford with the Rangers, Nolan Chanel,
Nolan Chandler with the Angels.
With the Angels, Andrew Vaughn, who again came up, and then Dave Winfield, pretty good company to be in. Robin Yount, Paul Molitor, Will Clark, Ozzie Smith, are all these guys down there. But there seems to be this new trend of like, look, if somebody's been dominating in high-level college ball, they might be relatively ready, or at least ready enough that you can just let them get ready at the major league level. There's not the need anymore for some of these top-end guys to toil away for 2 or 3 years in the minors, right?
Yeah, I think that, obviously, I think when you go back to the COVID season, that was obviously the kickstart of all these young kids getting pushed up because of the season that they didn't get to have in the minors. So I think that was probably one of the factors as well. But when you look at it, and I'm going to go back to the beginning when you talked about the pressure of things for him, because it all changes in scenarios and atmospheres. Because this kid's going into a team that's going to win, so that can obviously help the pressure off him, as opposed to maybe going to, like, let's just say the White Sox in an instant. They call this kid up. He's like, oh man, I got to impact this team right away because we're not going to be good. Like, I've got to show myself and show these guys that I'm not here to joke around. So he's got plenty of guys around him that can pick up his so-called slack and still win ball games, and he can still learn on the fly. But yeah, when you're talking about the fast track to the big leagues, it does seem to be more common that they're trying to, I guess what would be the correct term, would season them and get them ready there, as opposed to having them, struggle in Double-A for 6 months or Triple-A for 3 months and then try to figure it out there. So if you're going to struggle, I guess the positive thing there is, well, at least I'm struggling against big league pitching. And, if I do, no big deal, because I'm a kid who's, like you said, has got 32 games in the minors. If I do great, everybody's going to be happy. But if I don't, everybody's going to understand why. So I think there's no lose-lose for him. It's all win-win. But man, just go out there with that same mindset he had in spring training and have the guys behind you to fall on. And this is a great organization. This is a great team and a great organization. They'll have his back to keep him at the comfort level he needs to be at his highest performance.
Yeah, I was talking about this with somebody at the ballpark today, and it'd be different if they, let's say they would have sent him to he doesn't make the roster, and knock on wood, Jordan Alvarez gets hurt in May, or knock on wood, someone gets hurt, or the team is just struggling to a point where they need a spark, and they call this kid up. And he probably thinks, I have to be the guy that lifts this team out of nowhere, or I have to replace this good injured guy that I'm coming up. I have to replace his production.
Right.
There's going to be none of that here. Like, there's 0-0. If this team starts 12-24 like the last year's team did, it won't be because of Cam Smith.
No.
It will not solely be because Cam Smith is on this roster. There is a lot less pressure in this situation. He can come along at his own pace. He doesn't have to carry the team. Jose Altuve, Christian Walker, Jordan Alvarez, they're the guys that need to carry this team. They're the guys that they pay to carry this team have to carry this team, while Cam Smith is learning and coming along.
Right.
Now with that, it does everyone kind of wants to know, like, what are the realistic expectations for Cam? Like I know we just watched him dominate Grapefruit League play, but as we got toward the end and he was facing, Sonny Gray and Mason Williams and guys that are going to be in big league rotations, he never looked overmatched, but he was not getting the results that he got earlier in spring. He's going to, their first road trip, they go to Minnesota, who has the best bullpen in baseball, and it is going to be freezing in Minnesota in April. And then they go after that to Seattle, where it's going to be just as cold, and they have the best pitching staff.
The best starters.
So this ain't a soft landing spot for him. Like, he's going to get thrown right into it. What are realistic expectations for this guy? He's going to be hitting, I would imagine sixth or seventh in this order. He's going to have guys ahead of him that can do a lot of damage. They're not going to be asking him to drive in a bunch of runs, but what are the realistic expectations for Cam Smith in his first month in the big leagues?
It's hard to say that he won't struggle. I think he's just got to learn to get through that struggle, and how he copes through that is going to be his big thing, because you get through that cold, and it's no fun facing anybody who's not good in the cold, because if you don't barrel it, it's going to hurt for a day or two. So I think that just, when you look at his struggles, how he handles himself in the struggle department, and how he really relies on the other guys in that team and that clubhouse to help pick him up and carry him. I think that's your more realistic option. He's probably going to struggle for the first 2 or 3 weeks. Who knows? He comes out hot. He comes out hot in the first week and kind of just and it's completely possible, because nobody knows anything about this guy. That's kind of the positive he has going for him. There's no track record. There's no video to go on this kid outside of spring training video, which, as we all know, is not going to be nowhere near enough. So he's almost as much as an advantage as he is a disadvantage because he hasn't faced this pitching, but at the same time, they also haven't faced him yet, so they don't know what they're going to get out of him. They just know that they have big league stuff to go against this kid. But it is really hard for me to say he's not going to struggle because usually guys that come up for that first time are going to struggle unless you're just absolutely stupid lucky and really good, and he's really good, but you got to have luck as well. So I think the first 2 to 3 weeks can be a big learning curve for him, but I think it's going to be a struggle for that first month, and after that, he gets through that, sky's the limit.
I mean, yeah, I'm going to remind everybody, like we've reminded people about this on other podcasts. Like when Kyle Tucker came up, it was not smooth sailing. They had to send him back to the minor leagues.
Yep.
Alex Bregman infamously was about 2 for 40 his first few weeks in the big leagues. Like those guys are superstar players that are getting paid like superstars, and they struggled. Yordan Alvarez is a freak. Yordan Alvarez came up and didn't struggle. Carlos Correa, yeah, Oppo bomb his first game in the big leagues. Carlos Correa, same thing, didn't struggle.
Nope.
Josh, I do want to get, you talked about he's going to fail. When you're this good of a baseball player, when you're at this level, there's a good chance Cam Smith has never failed in his life on a baseball field. And if he has, it is very relative. It was like he had a week where he went like 1 for 15.
Right.
I'm going to assume, Josh, you were the same way. Like when you probably tore up high school ball in Georgia, you probably got to the professional ball, and you were probably one of the better players on the diamond a lot. How did you handle failure? Like, how did you handle failure the first time it really hit you in the face? And do you have any advice to guys like Cam Smith who are going to fail inevitably? It's going to be the first time that ever happens to him.
Yeah, so my first struggles I ran into would have been Double-A. Came up in the Eastern League, which is known for its better pitching prospects back in those days. So when I came up, I was obviously a big free swinger. So I struggled very, very, very hard with that one. But my biggest thing for me when I struggled was always having an outlet. Like you got to have an outlet away from the ballpark. Like you can leave everything in the ballpark. You can be upset. You can be mad. You can break helmets. You can do whatever you want to do at the ballpark. Cope with it, but when you get home, there's got to be a release and a way to get away from this game and get an escape so you can be a normal person. You can be, Cam Smith the person, not Cam Smith the ball player, or Josh Reddick the person, not dressed. So, for me, I played video games. Not against video games in our career. I'm not shy. If I wanted to go out and grab some drinks, I would go out and grab some drinks. I have no shame. If I wanted to go out and put one too many down to forget my night, I had no shame doing that. Kids, don't do that if you're listening or watching. Bad advice. But yeah,
Cam Smith is 22. He's probably only, he's not.
He's old enough. He can do it.
Yeah, I know, but
no, I think you got to have some kind of release and outlet from this game. There's got to be something where you can separate yourself from the game and kind of just forget about it, because you're going to wake up the next day and you're going to be there at 1 o'clock the next day till about 11 o'clock. So you just got to have those ways where you can have that short memory we always hear about baseball players having. But it's so cliche, but you got to take it day by day and find something that you can get away from this game and just forget about it for that night.
Well, Cam, after your first 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts, you have a standing invitation. I have not seen the new Galapagos Islands exhibit at the Houston Zoo, and I've been meaning to go.
It's fantastic.
I'm ready. I love a zoo. I just haven't been. And so, look, if you need to get your mind off of things, we want to go look at some penguins. I'm down. We can not talk about anything else. Just look at that. So that's a standing invitation for Cam Smith.
He could probably call him late night too, and they'd probably let him go through there late night. So that'd be no problem.
What's he gonna do? Just let him look at some giraffes sleeping. It'll be fine.
Dang right.
He's Cam Smith. He can do whatever he wants in the city. At this moment, Cam Smith can do whatever he wants.
He's almost Jose Altuve of Houston right now.
Let's talk about kind of some other roster things that came out today in addition to Cam Smith. After telling us all spring training that they were not going to carry Cam Smith or Zach DeZenzo if everyday at-bats were not available for them, they were going to carry both of them on the roster. Zach DeZenzo has made this team in addition to Cam Smith. I'd be stunned if Cam Smith is not this team's everyday right fielder. You don't carry a 22-year-old kid with this little experience to sit on the bench. So it's going to create some some fascinating lineup construction and some fascinating kind of in-game management for Joe Espada, because Zach DeZenzo is older than Cam Smith. He's played more in the minor leagues. He's had a taste of big league life, but this is still a kid that's developing. This is not a finished product. They need to get him at bats. They need to play him. And right now, to be completely frank, I don't know where the at bats come from on a regular basis for Zach DeZenzo. There could be some days where, Joe does some different things in right field. I don't think Cam Smith's going to start every single game, but I think, getting Zach DeZenzo in right field once or twice a week will help. Christian Walker, I believe, he's going to be in the opening day lineup on Thursday. That's what we've been led to believe. I still don't think he's probably 100%. I think he's good enough to play, but Zach DeZenzo is a first baseman, played first base tonight for the Astros against the Space Cowboys. I wonder if Christian Walker is kind of brought along slowly in the regular and to begin the regular season. That way DeZenzo can get some at bats at first base. They may need some defensive replacements late in games. You look at maybe he's there, but I think the defensive replacement now goes to Chas McCormick. And Chas McCormick did make this team as well. He's going to be on the roster. Profiles as the fourth outfielder. And Joe Espada said today that he had a conversation with Chas McCormick, because carrying Cam Smith is going to be the guy that's impacted the most. Chas McCormick will not be playing every day, but I wrote this earlier and I'll keep maintaining it. The reason Chas McCormick has a roster spot, he's the only other guy on this team that can play center field. Mauricio Dubon is a center fielder, but I think he's going to get the lion's share of the time at second base. As Tyler and I have talked about, Joe Espada pinch hits a lot. The Astros took 109 pitch hit plate appearances last year. It was their most since 2016. Who are the two guys that Joe Espada is probably going to pinch hit for the most? It's probably going to be Mauricio Dubon, probably going to be Jake Myers. Those are your two center fielders. And center field has never been more important on the Astros than it is now, with Altuve in left and now Cam Smith in right. They need a good defensive center field. They've got an elite one in Jake Myers, Chas McCormick right behind him. Chas McCormick's a really good defensive center fielder. So that's why he's on this roster, to back up in center field, to get some late game at bats against left-handed pitching, see how that goes for him. But Josh, are you surprised that they're carrying both DeZenzo and Cam Smith?
A little bit, yeah, because I'm with you. The at-bats for Zach become a lot more minimal now, with Cam getting out there probably 5 times a week, like you said, and he gets out there mixed up whenever he can. I think the late-night pinch hits become more of a thing for those two guys. And like you said, the defensive replacement becomes that big issue. I 100% agree with you of him being the guy that needs to be out there when they have to make that pinch hit for Jake. It's so important to keep those newbies in the corners and in line and to be able to cover the ground that they cannot. But yeah, these guys just got to realize, like, look, you're not going to get a ton of at-bats. You're going to play when we need you, and we just need you ready every night from the 5th inning on. And that's just one thing that they're going to have to learn to deal with. And, when they heat up, they can get a little more at-bats. But right now their focal point is to get these guys get these guys ready for when they need to be ready, and make sure that they're ready for that pinch run, that pinch hit, that defensive replacement. Because, you want to defensive replace Altuve, but you can't take him out of the lineup. And depending on who's, whoever's playing third or second that day, you really can't afford to move him there. So it opens up a little bit more of the pinch hitting and the defensive replacement for Cam Smith, whoever's playing right field that day. So, and who knows, even if you don't do that, you keep Jake out there and you even throw Chas in right to make your outfield that much better as well. If you're, call it the Michael Brantley theory, Brantley was in left, George, and then me, and then we bring in Jake, and everybody would line change and go over to make us a better defensive outfielder. So this ways to move things around, and Joe does such a great job at moving those guys around and mixing in his pinch hits. So yeah, I think those guys just got to understand that it's better to be here with our roles now than playing every day in Sugarland, would be the way I would have to look at it if I'm those guys.
And then I'm not forecasting this is going to happen, but we just talked about Cam Smith is probably going to struggle the first month and a half of the season. And I think Joe will walk a pretty delicate line of when to pinch hit for him, of when to, I think this is going to have to be cultivated through a lot of conversations, a lot of Joe being direct with Cam, probably early in a game, if he starts a game and he's been struggling for a while, Joe will probably have to tell him early in the game, like, hey, if they put in this reliever, I'm probably going to hit DeZenzo, or I'm probably going to hit Chaz, because they've got to keep his confidence, straightforward. They got to keep his head on straight. But Josh, this. Players love to know their roles. They love to know what's going to happen, what the plan is for them. And, that's just another avenue where DeZenzo could get some at-bats, because if Cam Smith does struggle a little bit to start out, DeZenzo's right there. That's their safety blanket. Their safety blanket is DeZenzo, who, while certainly not an accomplished defensive outfielder, has been playing out there longer than Cam Smith and has major league experience on the back of it. So that can really help as well.
Oh gosh, yeah. Just knowing the night before what your role is huge. When I was younger, and all these younger guys that come up, the managers always did such a good job of making sure, like, hey kid, you're playing tomorrow. You're facing this guy. Or tomorrow, like, hey, we're going to sit you down against this guy, give you a little rest, and not, destroy your confidence. So I really do think they're going to do a great job of that. Maybe not telling him so early as like, hey, if we're in the 5th inning and the 7th rolls around and you get whoever, hard throwing righty, we're going to hit you. That's something that you kind of throw on him at the spur of the moment, I think, because you don't want him to be up there in the 5th thinking about it at bat at the 7th.
Right.
Just, like, go up to him during batting practice, like, hey, today this guy is not a very long starter. If it happens to work out that way, we may get you out of there, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, they do such a good job of keeping those guys, acknowledged on their day-to-day routine and what they're going to do. So I'm sure that Joe and all their crew will be plenty on top of when they're playing, when they're not, and just to kind of keep them in line, because like you said, when you wake up in the morning and know that you're playing, it starts from, 10 o'clock in the morning. Whatever time you wake up, that's when your day starts when you're a starter. If you're not a guy, it's like when you wake up and you're not playing, it's a completely different atmosphere. It's a completely different feeling when you roll out of bed, because you feel a little bit more relaxed, where you don't have to amp up so quick. So knowing before is huge, because you can, you sleep, maybe you sleep better, you sleep worse, but you just start your day off in a different mood.
So when do they call you as an independent contractor to work on some right field tips and tricks out there?
Hey, plenty of people in that organization have my phone number and know that I live 25 minutes down the road. So they know when they need me to call. Just not in the next week and a half. I won't be in town.
Who's the person down the right field line there? Or do they throw with center field? Does right field throw with center field?
No, left field throws with center field. I always threw with Bracamani.
Okay.
Or the foul ball kid.
Mm-hmm. That's
always super scary.
This is the insight that we need.
No foul person should ever play catch with a major league player. Ever.
Oh gosh, no.
Because you can't get loose. You're just going.
I'd be scared. You couldn't pay me to play catch with, like,
there was a select few that were really good, and actually I tell you what, one of the better ones was in the old Arlington, the old stadium there. They always had, when I played left there, they always usually had girls down the line, and I remember, like, every time I'd go there, they must have gotten like some stud softball players from their colleges. These girls were firing it at me. I'm like, okay, I can let it go now a little bit. This is nice, but for the most part, no, it's like maybe 40% rainbow lobs, and then I usually just take the last one and chunk the heck out of it in the stands to get my arm loose. So he'll have Bracamani to throw to, so he'll be all right.
That'll be Cam Smith's first sight on a major league field when he runs out on Thursday afternoon at Dyken Park. Run straight to Javier Bracamani, the one guy you do want to see. If you want to see anyone in an Astros uniform to make you feel at ease, to make you feel comfortable, that's Javier Bracamani, the bullpen catcher. Cam Smith will play catch with him, turn around, be behind Framber Valdez, probably get 0 fly balls hit to him because Framber's pitching. And his career will start, and we will be covering it all here on Crush City Territory, the one podcast that told you from the very beginning that Cam Smith would be on the Astros opening day roster. Never forget that you heard it here first. Cam Smith, opening day right fielder for the Houston Astros. If you liked the analysis, if you liked that prediction, if you like anything you hear, please rate and review us on Apple. Please subscribe on YouTube so you can get a notification every time we go live. And please tune in for the rest of this week, as opening day is finally here. Cam Smith will be a big leaguer, and we'll cover it all on Crush City Territory. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
See ya.